All right, it's 7:30, so we're going to kick off the November 2019 Town Council meeting. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and for those of you just showing up, our public hearing was canceled for this evening, and so we moved right into the meeting. Presentations, anything?
I think we do.
Okay, all right.
Nope.
Okay, and got any county officials? I don't see anybody lingering out there, so okay with that. So next, what we have everything except the closed minute meetings. So we have the October 2019 Town Council meetings. Let's see there, public hearing meetings for Center Street, Cross Street, and municipal lot, and then the public hearing minutes for the sign ordinance 2019-11. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion to approve the
Makes
minutes.
a motion. Is there a second? Jason, discussion? Anyone? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. So, all right, next thing is the Police Chief Reese monthly report. You know, you should shave, yeah.
Raise some funds. Chief Reese with the Mount Airy Police Department's report for the month of October. Did submit my report to everybody. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, during the month of October, we handled 1,086 calls for service. We handled 11 Part 1 crimes and 15 Part 2 crimes. With traffic enforcement, we conducted 124 traffic stops, issued 43 traffic citations, 88 warnings, 14 safety equipment repair orders. There was no DUI arrests for the month. We did have 2 other traffic arrests. For criminal enforcement, we had 13 criminal arrests and issued 2 criminal citations. There were no civil citations, and we had 74 investigative reports that were authored. The monthly overdose summary, we did have 2 opioid-related overdoses in town. One was in the 1700 block of Ridgeside Drive, and the other was in the 200 block of West Watersville Road. It wasn't indicated if naloxone was administered or not in either of the reports. During the month, we did handle 4 thefts from vehicles or thefts from autos during the month. Just kind of want to remind residents that we're getting close to the holiday seasons. There's going to be more of that type of activity occurring. So just kind of a reminder to make sure that they park in well-lit areas, they secure their vehicles, lock them up, lock the doors, and remove valuables and report any suspicious activity. And that will be the police department's report.
Anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
How's the No Shave November? How's that working out for you?
So far, so good.
Yeah, good. All right. Next, we have the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company report. Bruce?
Good evening. For the month of October, rescue calls, we had 109 in Carroll, 44 in Frederick, 3 in Howard, and 5 in Montgomery for 161. Fire calls, good month, not too many. 18 in Carroll, 5 in Frederick, 2 in Howard, and 1 in Montgomery for 26, resulting in 127 calls for service in Carroll, 49 in Frederick, 5 in Howard, 6 in Montgomery for 187 total calls for service. We have our usual Big Country Breakfast on the 17th. December 1st, we will have our craft and vendor show from 10 to 3 at the reception hall. And we will have the same day open house with Santa, 12/1, from 1 to 4 in the lower level of the fire station. And the train garden will also be open on its usual weekend schedule.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, next is community concerns, citizen comments. If anybody would like to make a comment, you can come up to the podium and tell us what you got to say.
Hi, Roxanne Hemphill, 605 Park Avenue. I'm coming as chairperson of the Planning Commission to ask the council, if you notice, you do not have the APFO ordinance in front of you. We have asked, we decided we could not make a decision. We needed to work on it. We're going to have a work session on November the 14th. That puts us close to the 60-day limit, and we're asking the council to consider waiving that so we can have further discussion before we bring it to you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, before we carry on with that, any other comments tonight? Okay, let's see, as far as waiving that, Tom, are there legalities on that, or?
So typically, if the planning commission does not report back within 60 days, it's considered a positive recommendation. However, the town council has the authority to, upon request, extend that period of time for another 60 days. Just pull up that provision real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, so that the town council can vote to provide an additional period of time to in effect waive the 60-day period, as Roxanne had indicated.
Okay,
You can do that by.
okay. All right. Let's see, can that be done at the December meeting so we have it on the agenda, or?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so what we'll plan on doing is putting on the December agenda, and that way we'll have it on the agenda. Everyone will know what we're up to. That way we're not just shooting from the hip tonight. Sound okay? Is that agreeable to you, Roxanne? Thanks. Okay, is that agreeable to everyone here? Okay, all right. All right, I guess we'll go right into the ordinance and resolutions. So we got 2019-9 was the text amendment for the neighborhood professional district for adoption. And I believe the correct way to phrase what is going on with that is it is being withdrawn, and it will be drafted as a new ordinance, and we will see that sometime in the future. The staff will meet with the concerned parties, and Tom will as well, and we can expect to see something new somewhere down the road. So 2019-9 is gone. Okay. All right. Next, we have 2019-11, the revised sign ordinance is for adoption. I'll move it in to be discussed and voted on. Is there a second to move it in? We got Jason moved it in, and so we can just kind of go down the table, see if anybody's got any comments on this. Who wants to go first? First hand up. Okay, Jason?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still the same as I was last month, and even though the additions sort of clarify some of the definitions and meanings and those types of things, I'm still good. So those were my only comments.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I would agree with Jason and hope that tonight we can make a motion to approve this.
Okay. All right. Carl?
No comment. I'm good with it.
Pam? I'm sorry, Patty?
I'm good with that.
Too many Pats, Patties, Pams. So, okay. All right. I found a couple things just to tweak as we get through there. Let's see. Page 3 on the Definition of permanent sign. I believe the word such might be left out in there. It says signs that are permanently attached or designed to be permanently attached to real estate property as fixtures, the ground, building. I think there's supposed to be the word such between property and as fixtures. Properties such as fixtures, the ground, building.
Actually, no.
No? Okay, okay.
Actually, no. It should read real property as fixtures, meaning fixtures are those things that are not readily movable
Okay.
or attached to the real property.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Let's see. All right, page 5. There was a typo down there. Administrator is spelled incorrectly. Not that big of a deal, but might as well get it right now. 14, 17. Okay, page 17. 17. And this just may be myself a little confused. Okay, H 4, where it says sign text and graphics are to be pre-printed on weather-resistant material, the size of which shall not exceed 2 foot by 3 foot, and temporary signs shall not be posted on utility poles, traffic control devices, signs, or existing signs or structures. My question is that 2 foot by 3 foot, does that apply to the sign or to the graphics on the sign?
The sign.
The sign. Because it's talking about temporary signs, and we know that the feather flag sign can be a lot bigger than that.
Yard signs that people put in for.
Okay, so it's specific to yard signs and not all temporary signs?
No, it could still be, I mean, yeah, it is the temporary signs, but the,
Because, I mean, banners are bigger than 2 foot by 3 foot, and they can be temporary.
I read this to be referring to the graphics,
To the graphics?
text and
Okay.
graphics.
Yeah, if it applies to the graphics, we're good. If it applies to the overall sign, then we're
so they're saying that a letter couldn't be larger than
2 foot by 3 foot. So I'm not sure why that's important, but I'm not gonna argue it.
To me, it sounds like it refers specifically to the text, not the sign.
To the text.
Right.
Okay,
I think that was the intent.
okay, all right, that's fine then. Okay, and the last one is page 20. And I got a little confused about the, on letter D, where it says signs on vehicles indicating the name of a business when the vehicle remains stationary off premises and for display of such a sign. And my question is, what are we really talking about there? Are we talking about, a box truck that has a big billboard on the side of it, basically, parked somewhere at a school or something? Thanks, Roxanne, because I know you know what they meant.
Yes, it can be a box truck with the whole side of it advertising. It can also be a vehicle. It's a smaller vehicle that has the sign on it that stays stationary.
Okay. Does this imply that a vehicle can go and park in a parking lot and stay there for a year, 2 years?
No, that's what we're trying to get rid of.
It said off-site, did it not?
It's off-site,
Off-site, that's,
so it's off-site. If it's not on the site of the,
but if they own the property, they can,
if they own the property, it can be there.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, okay.
unless it's, and I don't know if this is spelled out, unless it's an actual banner that's not permanently affixed, it's not painted, because we've had them drape a banner over it, that becomes a banner. But if it's on the vehicle, it's a different animal. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Is there any concern by other council members that perhaps a vehicle that ends up not being registered or ends up basically just sitting there on flat tires, ends up on a property, is that a big deal to anybody or no?
Is it their property?
Well, sometimes not.
We have a
But
situation in
that's-
town now where it's not on the owner's property.
Yeah.
It appears to be the owner's property, but it's owned by another owner, and the vehicle is sitting on Main Street right now.
So that could be code enforcer or police?
Once this passes,
Okay.
it may have been followed now, but
I think you have the same deal. It does have current registration tags on it, not the tag,
it's not flat tires,
not flat tires, and it has a current registration.
does it? Okay.
Okay, all right.
So the tags that are on it.
Yeah, but if it's not their property, this still,
Would still apply.
Do
This
they
would apply.
lease the property?
Or do they lease?
oh, that's a good point.
Do they lease a portion of that?
So if they lease the property, it becomes,
I guess that would be,
Part of
that would
their-
give them right, certainly, oh, certainly. Because you have several businesses that actually lease that can have the box truck on their property. They may have to prove that they have a lease, I don't think they do, I don't know.
be a different scenario then.
Yeah, it would be,
Okay,
because they would have a right to be there.
all right,
Good question.
all right. So everyone's comfortable?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I moved it in. Does someone want to make a motion to pass this
I
one?
would make a motion to pass 2019-11 as written.
I'll second.
And with the corrections?
With
Corrections, okay. So.
I'll
you make the
second.
Motion with corrections.
With
Jason seconds. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous, and the sign ordinance
Congratulations, Roxanne.
is through.
It's official.
We'll give a shout out to the planning commission. So
Yes.
nicely
Thank you.
done.
Chief, can you make
Just
sure
need
Matt
Todd.
gets a copy of the new sign ordinance? Because he'll be the enforcement.
All right, we're down to Resolution 2019-9. That's the homestead tax for adoption. Would someone like to make a motion on that?
Before you do it, I just want to make a recommendation that we stay at zero. We maintain, as soon as y'all are done, we maintain it at zero. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll continue with my motion.
all right, Jason makes a motion. Is there a second? Patty? And any more discussion on that? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous as well. All right, ordinance 2019-17, that's a budget amendment for the Mount Airy Police Department to purchase an automated license plate reader. It is grant funded and will be reimbursed. This is the first time that we've seen it, but they're asking that it be passed as an emergency for adoption so they can get this done. I'll go ahead and make the motion that we pass it. Is there a second on that? Okay, Carl seconds. For discussion, Chief, could you tell us what this is all about?
It's a Burn Memorial BJAG grant through the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention that we made application for. I got to give my hats off to Heather Smith because she did a tremendous job writing the grant, did very articulate, did a lot of research, put a lot of effort into it. And I had oversight and just reading through it, she did a fabulous job, how our facts lined out. But basically, we requested that we actually have a pilot program going on right now. The state police has loaned us a tag reader that we've been working with several months. And it's an older piece of equipment. When they're done with it, basically they wanted to have one in the area down here for us, and they loaned it to us, and we put it on our patrol cars, and it's been working great. And basically, it's a force multiplier. The officers find more stuff, more violations, and it's also a safety officer safety improvement because it lets them know right away if something's up if they stop a car just by reading the tag and running it, and it's provides instantaneous results if there's something that they need to be aware of for officer safety purposes. We actually requested 2 units. The grant was written and they funded one of the units, which is for amount of $12,775, I believe, which will pay for the equipment and the licensing fees. The only out-of-pocket expense that we may have would be the installation of the equipment, which is minimal. I think we have enough in the budget right now with vehicle maintenance that we could apply that towards that if we even need it all. I have an idea that I could probably talk it over with the state police, the people that installed the tag reader on our current vehicle. They may do it without a cost to us at all. So, but again, that would be a minimal expense that would be handled under the current budget without any additional funding. And the reason we're asking for it as an emergency is because there's a timeline on these grants, and the state was almost 2 months late getting its response back to us to let us know, and we're already well within the first quarter, and we had to submit our timeline to the state saying by the end of the first quarter we would have this equipment purchased and installed on the vehicle. And you know, with that being wanting to get that done, we would have to kind of step it up real quick, because that way we can get it done and get the reimbursement in place and taken care of, and then we can get that piece of equipment operational now on the street for the remainder of the grant period.
All right.
The state police equipment, that's a loan, so will they remove it from the vehicle?
Well, it's the equipment, again, it's older equipment.
So do they maybe not care, or?
They're probably, when it's stopped, basically at some point, its life expectancy, it's gonna stop working, and it won't be an effective, it'll be a paperweight. So they'll probably let us have it until that point, once it's no longer serviceable, and then we'll end up giving it back and they'll dispose of it.
So the equipment that this would be going into would not be the same car, like they wouldn't replace it, it would be in another vehicle?
Correct.
Okay. And then are there any yearly service charges or account subscriptions that we need to probably be aware of, like down the road?
Yeah, we'll understand the licensing fee, once that's paid, that's all taken care of in the initial purchase.
Okay. And like for, you mentioned officer safety, the purpose is not to drive through Walmart parking lots just scanning license plates. It's more of, you know, if I pull a vehicle over to scan the license plate, or drive down Main Street and notice, hey, something kind of clicked up, let me investigate. What's sort of the overall purpose for this?
What the license plate reader does is it's scanning the numbers, the tags, as the vehicles pass or in the area and it gets close, and it sends an alert to the officer. And what it does, it compares everything to the hot files for stolen vehicles, for warrants, MVA, for suspended driver's licenses and revoked driver's licenses and suspended tags. So it's all doing that instantaneously. So when the officer stops that car, they already know what's going on with it. It's not like they stop the car and find out after the fact. So that does have an impact on officer safety.
So that's different though, I don't necessarily know normal proceedings. You would approach a vehicle, ask for the license, come back, run the tag, run the license, figure out if there's anything else going on besides the initial reason why you pulled them over.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So going up to that vehicle, you may already know that,
Correct.
hey, this is kind of going on.
Right.
Do you still follow that same procedure though, right? Okay.
Yes. And the big thing is when you stop that car, you already know if that person's got a warrant or something for them, if it's the registered owner of the vehicle, if it's driving the vehicle, whatever. You already know that there's a warrant out for that person,
Gotcha.
which could impact your safety.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Chief Doug, the equipment scans tags, multiple tags,
Correct. Yes.
as your vehicle's driving.
Right.
Wow.
Right. It's a pretty high-tech piece of equipment.
Better make sure my tags aren't expired.
I'm sure that's the least of their worries.
I would like to also thank the chief. I had some questions on this earlier, and I emailed him, some similar to what Councilman Poyer had, and he had a quick response for it. So I would like to say thank you for that, too. And as a person that has been busted by one of these things for something that was not my fault, they do work very, very effectively.
All All right, so Patty, do you have anything? Or Mayor?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, so we need this to pass by at least 4, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous, so you're good to go. All right, no unfinished business this month, and we have new business. And first thing is the Boslow property rezoning application. And we need to set a date for a public hearing. And the belief is that this would be a little bit more than we could handle at the beginning of a council meeting. So we're looking at a separate day to do that on. And Tom, are there any time limitations that can we hit, is December okay, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
council is here for the applicant. I think the second week of December was good for you all, I think.
Okay,
And that certainly is fine.
all right. Date of, how does December 9th, is that working for people?
December 9th works for me.
What's Monday? Yeah, that should be fine for me.
I cannot.
That'd be seven.
Cannot? Okay, all right. Is there, do you have an alternative date or day of the week, Jason?
I can do Thursday, the 12th.
Well,
I have the
Volunteer dinner as well as something else going on that day.
business card exchange? That's a business card exchange.
There's multiple events.
The multiple
that day.
events that day, okay.
Yeah, I think that, isn't it dinner,
The volunteer dinner is, yeah.
okay.
12th. Oh, I said December 12th.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So the 12th is EDC's business card exchange here.
Does that run
And
into the
then
evening,
dinner.
or?
Goes from 5 to 7. But the area would need to be cleaned up and sort of transformed.
Okay, all right.
But we could clean it up quickly by 7:30. Could we?
Okay.
Are you having a meeting in here? Because they usually do a lot of setup.
Yeah, that would,
Yeah.
Big setup. It really takes us all day to set up.
no.
Do you think this is gonna be enough space for the public hearing?
I think it would be, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I don't, I expect a crowd, but I don't expect a, you know, a crowd that would exceed the capacity of this, unless somebody else feels different, so. All right, so we got, now, we could do that. We could do it on the 12th and do it in another location.
Since having the recording here.
I agree,
It's easier to.
I agree.
How about the 10th would be that Tuesday?
Oh,
I work.
Oh.
Sorry.
There are
I'm
any
working.
commission meetings that we need to bump, because we could.
Don't think so.
Town calendar.
let's see, what do we got?
Most commissions cancel their December meetings
that when-
anyway, so. Second
We
week.
could,
for commissions.
Dick, how willing are you to give up a water meeting in December?
Can we do the 18th?
Yeah,
Can we do the 18th?
of December?
Yeah? Or is that too late?
We can look at that.
It's not too late, there's not a time frame. Does that work for you?
Was the 4th, how did that work for you, Jason? That's a Wednesday.
The 4th of December, that, Mr. Barasov.
It's the
that's
first
one of
week
those
that he
days.
can't do.
Oh, okay, all right,
So we have to
Okay.
start.
all right.
I want to have Gina do a doodle poll.
Well, I mean, how's everybody on the 18th?
They shall have
Anybody
it.
heading out of town? Good,
I should be good, yeah.
good, good, good. All right, I think we can work with the 18th. No,
My clarification, are we looking at the 9th and the 18th
or the 18th as opposed to the 9th was originally.
Yes, we are looking at the 18th and taking the 9th off the table. Okay? All right. Sure. Sound okay to everyone? All right.
Now, what time? We've got the date.
7's fine.
So, okay.
Okay. Good. All right. And you said that gets us a little bit tight, or no?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. December 18th, 7 PM. Town Hall. All right, moving on. Next on the agenda, our new town administrator, David Warrington, is going to talk to us about the urban renewal program.
Mayor and council, this is an item that's near and dear to my heart because I've been there, done that with this. When I came here, there was a lot of discussion about blight in some properties, and one of the first things I asked was whether we had urban renewal authority. Made an inquiry to the Maryland Municipal League and found that we do not. It is a tool that a number of municipalities have availed themselves to. The only way to get it is through statute, through the General Assembly. It is a boilerplate statute or bill that is rather voluminous, is 17 pages, but basically what everyone does is takes the last municipality out and puts a new municipality in, and the verbiage is almost identical. It is identical for all the municipalities. One of the things that this allows the town to do is to have a little bit of teeth or a tool in their toolbox to address blighted properties. All too often, I have encountered properties that you just can't get off the dime, that most of the properties that I've dealt with in the past, one gentleman lived in New York in Manhattan and another one was in Virginia, and they don't see what you see or we see every day in the municipality of a property that's dragging everyone else down. And so the couple of times I've dealt with people, they were multimillionaires, and this was pocket change to them, these small properties. And so it didn't get the attention that it needed. And if you've ever written a municipal infraction, to write one for somebody that's on Wall Street, New York, they really don't tend to come down for a $50 fine to stand in front of a judge and or even pay the fine or even acknowledge they've received it. So what this does, it gives the municipality the power to force the issue if you have a piece of property that just is not being taken care of. I like to use the term that it allows the town to purchase it for fair market value, and fair market value is determined by the value of the property less the improvements to the property, so that you're not paying a premium price for something that's not in premium condition. And that makes it usually manageable depending on the decay and deterioration of the property, but it allows the town to purchase the property and then move forward to try to correct the situation. In my past experience, maybe call me chicken, but I always had somebody on the line to take the property off my hands. The residential are easy. There are flippers out there that will take it for what you have, and I've had experiences where people have lined up to try to get the properties from us to put money in, and then we've all seen it on TV. They turn a profit on it, and so they're delighted. But mainly what it is I had a couple that were in, I actually became the executor of an estate because there were no living relatives. So I was appointed by the court to be the executor and ended up having an estate sale for whatever was left and not vandalized in the house. And then we turned around and took possession and sold it. That property, actually, they tore it down, built a new house, and the developer made a lot of money, which the town was fine with. The neighbors were delighted. The property ends up coming back on the tax rolls. Some of them had sat for as many as 7 or 8 or 9 years, which is why the town went to get urban renewal authority. You get to a point where you feel like you're just spinning your wheels and nothing's happening. And so I'm asking the mayor and council to consider asking the delegate, and then we have a delegate that is interested in sponsoring this bill, asking the delegate to sponsor the bill in the upcoming session in January, which would usually 99.9% of the time goes unimpeded through the process, would be signed into law by the governor, and we would have that authority sometime in, depending. Sometimes they sign the bills in May, sometimes they wait till July. But then once you have it, you don't have to use it. You're not mandated to use it. You're not required to use it. I've talked to some of the municipalities that have never used it, but it's a tool in their toolbox. And my experience when sitting down and explaining to a property owner that this is how it's going to go, there are usually it is the impetus to get them to do something, whether they fix it up, although unfortunately I've never had anyone actually fix one up, or to turn around and allow the town to take it for fair market value. And there are some benefits to the property owner, the gentleman in Manhattan, because we threatened officially to purchase the property. He'd have to pay capital gains tax, so he was delighted. There are some benefits, at least, to the property owner. And some of these properties, I had one 17 years, one 15 years, that had just sat there, and every piece of copper and aluminum was stripped off the building. I've given you some pictures of some before and afters of one of the properties, but it's very productive. Only one time do we actually end up in court, and that was the owner of a prominent DC bank who went into court, and the judge ended up giving him a little bit more than our fair market value, but my mayor and council were ready to go with that because it was worth the investment. We had investors lined up. A hotel is being built on that after we took down the 8-story building and the 5-story building with a wrecking ball, the old-fashioned way. There is a new hotel that's being built there right now, or about to be built there. So it went from a place where the health department methadone clinic was just up the road, where people ended up coming from there and ending up in there, and now the properties are gone. The owner has been paid. The town took possession and found somebody who wants to put a hotel on it. So that's kind of my experience, but I would urge you to at least consider getting the tool. You are the ones who determine whether the tool is ever used, and there are checks and balances with Planning Commission would see it, and you would methodically put the list together. And again, there are some on the list from 1996 where I left that have never been acted on, because they weren't quite at that point of total deterioration. But it's something that you can at least sit down at the table with a property owner and say, we need you to do something, here's where we're at, and here's where we could go. And it usually opens a dialogue. And so without that, it's business as usual, status quo. With it, at least gives you a little bit of leverage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does this differentiate between residential versus commercial?
No, it can be used in residential, commercial, industrial, any property that's in disrepair.
So in order to utilize this, would we have to go through our normal process of the blight ordinance before we could?
No.
Can we go straight to this?
You can go straight to this. You have to prove your case, and I always say that if you think you're going to end up in front of a judge, you better have a lot of really nasty pictures and a good timeline of how long and how your efforts to try to correct this. And I always like a solution before going to the court. Compliance is what we're looking for, not a fight.
Sometimes just having the tool in your toolbox is a deterrent, or it's an encouragement to the business. We actually used our blight ordinance once, or we said that we would enforce it, and the next day, the owner, who we spent years trying to get to do something, actually went out and took care of that property because the town council a few years earlier had passed the blight ordinance. This looks like something similar to the blight ordinance, but with some more teeth. So I just want to encourage the council. And also, Dave, I think, because you and I have had discussions, and I wouldn't want to do it in a public forum, but I think you've laid out to the council potential properties where this could help us? You have?
I haven't done that yet, no, didn't want to get the
We do
cart
have a
before the
list of
horse.
potential properties that it may help us on, so I want to see how it could be applied. But again, it's a process.
Yeah.
It's not something we're going to jump in if this is approved.
Oh, no, that's 17 pages of statute.
Yeah, it's-
Make sure that you follow step by step. The state doesn't want anyone.
And the goal here is really to have the property owners take care of it, not for
Absolutely.
government to step in. But sometimes we need the tool. The blight ordinance has worked. Thank you, Tom, and the council.
Question here, David. No, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I did read the 17 pages of state statute and several times to be able to understand the word and the language in it. But would this apply to just properties that have existing buildings on it, or could it be also applied to vacant properties, like, lots that haven't been built on,
I've never used it for that. Normally, with that, we could deal with the blight type of thing of tall grass and refuse or something on the
That's a
property.
good question, Carl, because we have potentially 2 properties now.
Yeah, and also, how about a property that, say, the landlord just might have 2 spots rented, but it could also hold, like 20 more businesses in it, but they just refuse to rent it? Could this be applied to that, or?
It can be. You have to make that argument, a really compelling argument, and that's why there's so many checks and balances in there. This type of ordinance has been used in big cities, Philadelphia, Detroit, DC, down in the Adams-Morgan area. If you had been there 25 years ago, compared to what Adams-Morgan looks now, but the city of, the District of Columbia used that as an economic tool to get rid of some of what they call blighted or slum areas. But, yeah, I would like to have a really good case before a partially rented property we would deal with.
Cool, no, that's fine.
David, I have a question, Tony Bergman, Messenger. Does this program apply exclusively to real property, or does it also overlap and cover blighted personal property, such as a junked car or truck in front of them on the street, on Main Street?
Our blight ordinance can be enforced for something like that. The chief and code enforcer have the ability regarding inoperative vehicles, especially on the street. It's a police issue. On a private property, it's a police/code enforcement issue.
You want to come up, or have we got to, yeah, come on up, Doc, and ask.
Yeah.
So.
Michael O'Brien, 806 Park Avenue. Does this ordinance incorporate our blight ordinance, or is it totally different? And what are the distinctions between it? And which has more teeth? And would we abandon our blight ordinance in favor of this ordinance?
This is in addition to the blight ordinance. The blight ordinance is something that we can work with right now to deal with certain aspects that are currently legislated. And it really is helpful for, I would call it the minor infractions. This is a supplement to this or in addition to this, and this one has a lot more teeth. This allows the town to actually look at purchasing a property that is blighted with the intent of getting it fixed up, cleaned up, taken care of. And so where there may be some debris, the chief and the code enforcer can deal with that, and we can do that through, a municipal infraction. We're talking about an entire lot in a building. That's what this really addresses. So it would be a supplement to it.
Yeah, and I've read through this. Towns near us that have done this, Boonesboro, Tawnytown, city of Frederick, have gotten this authorization. And I mean, I want to make it clear to everyone that there's no intention to enact this and jump out there and find the nearest vacant building. we have our own vacant building that we got to deal with. So we're not, we're not looking at jumping in the middle of this. But I do think, as my good friend Kip Valentine used to say, it's better to have and not need than need and not have. This would enable, probably not us, but someone, you know, a couple councils down the road to be able to look at an issue that comes up. So, you know, I think it's a good idea to get the delegate to go ahead and sponsor this and get this, you know, get this label put on the town, this authorization put on the town so that we can deal with something down the road. So,
And because it has to go through the legislature, you have a window of opportunity the first of the year.
Yeah.
So if we didn't do it this year, you would have to wait again till the first year. And even at that, coming out and getting signed by the governor is usually May or June, July.
okay. So the way I vision this going is that, you know, basically if there's nobody who objects to him pursuing this, then go ahead and pursue it. And then when we get this authorization, then we may have something formal that comes to the council in the form of a referendum or a ordinance.
Procedure.
Yeah,
Document.
something like that. But, yeah, go ahead.
David, just to confirm, once we receive it, it doesn't need to be renewed. We gain it for.
Forever.
Yes.
It's forever. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Thank you, David. Appreciate you presenting all that to us.
Do we need to do a motion or anything, or is he good to go? And
I don't think so, because, you know, consensus is what we're looking for. And if
okay, so he's
Yeah.
good to go with the delegate.
yeah, so if nobody has a problem with it, then, you know, go forth. So, okay, all right. Next thing on the agenda is a discussion about Center Street, and I believe Councilmember Reed, would you like to tell us what your thoughts are on this?
Yeah, so my number one priority at council is actually seeing the Center Street extension going through. It's something that we as a community have talked about for a long time. It has been talked about at council for a very long time. And a lot of work has been done on the back end, but we as a community or council have not actually kind of taken actionable steps with time-stamped dates of completion to actually see the extension go through. So I actually had Tom draft a resolution that hopefully I can introduce next month to hold us accountable for creating that timeline with actionable items and a completion date so that we can see the Center Street extension go through. Whether that means a developer pays for it or we as a community pay for it, how we get there is what I would like to see on paper and moving forward. Whichever direction it takes, we need a path to get there. It kind of makes it a real item, not just something that we talk about. So I'm curious to see how everyone kind of feels about that.
Well,
I'm taking notes here, hold on.
This may be a good segue. It was from my mayor's report, but I'll throw it out there. Dave has been developing a list of outstanding projects. We are going to turn that list over to you within a week and give you a chance to review it for a few weeks before the December meeting. And then you can sit down and we're going to ask that council prioritize what they would like to see. And from that from whatever you prioritize, then we could probably put a timeline. At one time, I think a straw poll was taken, Center Street came up as number one. So if that did in fact come up as number one, we would want to develop a timeline there as well. So it's kind of belts and suspenders what you're asking for, but we're gonna do a list for you all to review everything. If it falls number 6, you may not want to do that, but
We can all kind of agree that Center Street is probably on the top of that list. It
was before.
Yeah, it is sort of a key component to the revitalization of downtown Mount Airy. Again, everyone at this table kind of ran on the idea that we were going to work on it and at least try to see it through. And that's kind of the path I want to take, not by kind kind of introducing a resolution, it doesn't mean that we'll go out there tomorrow with a bulldozer and put the street through. It just means that we're gonna sort of seriously start talking about
Have a plan.
options. Have a plan.
Have a
How are we
plan.
gonna get it through? If the developer's not gonna put it through, are we gonna put it through? If we put it through, how do we get there? If the developer's gonna put it through, what path, what action items do we need to take to get there?
Pam, if I could, just to add on. So in Center Street would be holding up several other projects. Maybe your
Correct.
MXD zoning that you're trying to accomplish. It's gonna hold up anything with the Flatiron Building, because you don't want to do that till you have an
Right.
alternative route. So it does drive a couple other projects.
It's sort of a key component to the downtown revitalization and the vision plan that we paid for. So it's just something to, by introducing the resolution, it holds us accountable for getting there.
I'm not against the resolution. My question is would it be more effective to actually put together a task force, a Center Street task force, that is able to study it, get defined goals, have one focused vision, that's to get moving on Center Street, have a council liaison assigned to it, and come up with a method, who we need to talk to, what questions need to be asked.
So,
I think
but
it's a good
that's part
idea.
of the resolution,
Well,
that's part of the resolution by holding us accountable. By accepting the resolution or voting on it, forming the task force is an actionable item.
I would think if we didn't have the expertise, because all that's gonna happen, you're gonna have citizens coming forth, they're gonna have to go through Barney, they're gonna have to go through John, they're gonna have to go through planning. We already have the expertise in place to do that. And I would not want to bring in a citizen committee without that expertise to do something so critical, because we really need the input. I mean, it's a great idea. In general, we do that all the time. But for something as important as Center Street, they're going to be doing the work anyway. I really don't need a task force to ask them what to do. They know what to do to
Well,
get you that information.
My concern is that I know they all got about 80 different things to do.
I know.
And I know everybody on this council is spread extremely thin.
Yeah, But citizens
know.
are not going to have the expertise, not for something this
No, but
critical.
they can have a focus. I mean, that's,
They're still going to tax staff. It's
Okay.
not going to take it out of staff's hands.
all right.
So David has actually come up with sorry to kind of call you out on this, a flow chart that he shared with me the other day. And I was pretty impressed because it laid it out pretty clear what needed to be done and what needed to be done next, and sort of that, that list. What I want to see is us to commit to that list and put dates on it to have them completed by.
Can I ask a couple questions? So I think it's good for us to focus on something that I think the majority of the people in this town have voiced that they would like to see eventually happen. And I agree with Mayor Pat that there's a lot of other projects that are on hold until we get that through. Now, my question to the town staff is I heard you have this incredible flow chart. And I know the last meeting, Barney had said that, it would be probably $2 to $2.5 million if we were to put it through. So there's obviously been some work already that's been done by the staff. So rather than reinvent, another circle here, how can we get all that on paper so that maybe we could have a presentation to see where we are?
Yeah, I mean, I think staff could certainly put something together, just as a task force could do, and bring it to the council.
You done?
I'm done.
I don't want to.
I'm done. I just wanted to, because I know we already have the expertise in-house. And so, we've been discussing it for a long time. I think it's very, very good to bring it as a tangible item instead of keep, bantering it back and forth. But I do think that we probably have a lot of the information at hand. But as far as putting something, I think it's good to say, let's have a timeline to discuss it. I don't know if we can put a timeline as well, we're gonna do this now and this next and this by June of 2020 because we don't have any funding to do that. So regardless of what we'd like to do, the long and short of it is, if we don't have money, then that becomes an issue.
But you could set benchmarks.
Yeah, there are
you could set
benchmarks, like, so there's a lot that has to happen before we ever get to the funding part.
Which is June.
Right, but we're talking a couple of years even before we get to funding, right, Barney? I mean, realistically. But there are a lot of steps that have to happen in between that we, Barney, as Councilwoman Patty said, we've done a lot of the back end work, but there's still a lot more work that needs to be done, and we need to map that out, and we need to prioritize.
Be mapped out. Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
already there. We just got to lay it all
Yeah,
out.
I'm
like you
in
started
agreement
laying
with
it out.
that. I'm definitely in agreement with that. Okay.
And we can do it in conjunction with, you're going to get a list next week. You can sit down at this table in December, check off the list. Pretty sure Center Street's going to be number one. From there, present your flow chart at the same time. We start rocking and rolling in December. That was the whole plan when we brought on a new TA.
Yeah, I think the devil's advocacy side of me, the only thing that concerns me about the resolution, I'm not saying that I'm not supporting it, I'm going to read it thoroughly. But the concern is that we're basically signing up for something that's really not, it's not fully in our control. That's private property. It's not our property.
But that's part of the discussion that we have to have. How
Be
do
a benchmark.
Right, benchmark. Do we acquire the property? Do we get use of the property? Those are things that we need to talk about. And those are
Yeah, I
benchmarks
agree.
that
We
to
need to
set.
talk.
We get the MXD zoning that would allow private development to put it through.
So at the last at the last planning commission meeting, I asked John to bring out everything that we've done on the mixed use, because it is going to take private-public funding to get this through. And I think there are some people out there looking to see what the mixed use zone is going to bring, and that will help with the funding. But we've got to get that through. So that's going to start working after the first of the year. We have one more meeting, and then we don't have a meeting in December. And we're also talking about possible work sessions with this so we can get it through quicker. We're real close, I think, to the mixed use. There's just, we just have to come to a meeting of the mind. So I think that the mixed use is going to help this to go along. And it is one of the priorities that the Design Collectives has said is important for the development, although that's, just a vision plan, but still, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you, Roxanne. So,
Well, my turn now. All these are good points, but I want to see the resolution, but also, what are we hoping, since we've done the work before, this has been discussed for basically eons now, years upon years, what are we hoping, what new information will this bring to the table? We know it's private property. We know we don't have the money. We know what needs to be done. We know it can work in conjunction with MXD, not with MXD. Who's going to pay for it? Is it us, the developers? So are we just going to be reinventing the wheel here, or is this going to just bring everything together in one document where we need, which is a good idea, but are we looking for new solutions or the same problem, or are we just going to try and consolidate everything, which I'm all for, so we have one document saying, hey, we need this. Maybe not benchmarks, as Councilwoman Washerbaugh said, we don't have the money and we've discussed it, we've talked about it. So it's kind of like, what are we looking for out of this besides the benchmarks and stuff? And MXD is good, but it's going to take a while to solve. Might work, might not work. A lot of stuff is riding on this, but let's do it right to make sure that we identify the concerns, the problems we say if we put it through, what's going to happen down here on Main Street with the traffic, the flow, and everything else, which could be part of this discussion. but we know what's going to happen already. We've discussed it. So as long as it's not a drawn-out process, I can get behind it.
Well,
So-
right now, you have
so-
no
so-
plan.
Wait, okay,
Yeah.
so that's part of the problem. All we've done, and when I say we, I mean we as a community, all we've done is discuss it. We've not taken real actions to see it through. That is the purpose of this. Whether it's this council that actually finally sees it through, we may not be here that long, but at least we've started the process and made it a tangible item.
Excuse me. Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Um, 3 years ago, when I was at the building that Dr. Hud built, I was asked, when are you going to put Center Street through? I was told it was 7 years ago it was going through, and that was 3 years ago. So now we're 10 years farther down the road. We can't keep saying, what if? We have to start making steps forward. There's investors and developers and people that want to come into the town, but they're not quite sure they want to take that step yet because we haven't taken steps to give them the warm fuzzy that this is going to happen. I don't mean to be a doomsday person, but we need to sustain the town of Mount Airy. One of the ways is through this MXD, through the infill, and through the commercial. The timeline, if you know anything about real estate, you know that there has to be a commercial component and a residential component. And that commercial component drives the residential. If that commercial component is not there, whatever you're trying to improve, drive, dies. It just dwindles. I'm not saying we're to that point. I know I'm very passionate about this because I want the town of Mount Airy to continue to grow. And we are kind of like spinning our wheels at this point, and we're not growing, we're not making steps towards people to be interested to come into the town to do the commercial things that need to be done that then attract other people to stay here. And we've always wanted to make this a town where there was a beginning home, you move to the next, and you move to the next. We're to the point now where the people are wherever they are, they can't move in the town any farther because we don't have the services that they need to stay here.
Roxanne, just to clarify, when you say the word grow too, it may have different meanings to different people.
Okay.
We're talking about Center Street infilling
Yes.
properties that are
Yes.
already there, maximizing lots that are just grass.
Yes.
Extending our main street and adding some wow to our main
Yes.
street in downtown, which reflected in the 2007 survey was a priority of the
Exactly,
citizens.
and that
Not
would-
expansion or growth around
No,
us,
no.
but growth on Center Street.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that will bring more people, and then the commercial people will be happy, and more people will want to have commercial properties and retail and service properties here.
all right, thank you. Yeah, I would say go ahead and, we'll bring that resolution up next month. We'll all take a look at it and see if it's something we're willing to sign on to, stick our teeth into it and chew it around and do whatever we're going to do with it. So, thank you. Anything else on that topic before we move on? All right, next thing is the truck purchase for Public Works. Brian's here. You want to tell us what you're getting? All right.
Brian, thank you.
Okay, I'll start to discuss, is this, maybe Brian or someone in the staff, is this normal replacement of existing trucks? We're not buying anything extra, we're just switching one out for a new one, okay.
All right.
And I take it you also said that we're foregoing the another purchase of another truck in here. So the extra is just going to be taken out of the purchase of the vehicle we're not purchasing from. So there's no new budget, no new money needed for this or anything else. I know, but for the most part, we're not adding anything that's not already existing. Okay,
Yeah, to elaborate on that, we can approve the truck tonight. There may be a budget amendment at the next meeting that accommodates for the $6,045 overage. Charlene wasn't in today, so we weren't able to clarify that, but it sounded like potentially we'll see a budget amendment next month, which is fine.
And just a question to the mayor, does he have the preference over a Ford or Chevy this time, or Ford's fine?
Always like to buy local when
All
we
right.
can.
It is
For
local.
various reasons.
Jared did say
Yeah,
he would buy a local, right?
Yeah.
So it would be the Ford truck.
yeah, it's, difference is minuscule.
I mean, as long as they're competitive.
Yeah.
Those guys, as long as they give you what you need.
Yeah, there was a $64.76.
Yeah. Certainly when you think about maintenance and
Oh, yeah.
service, it's
No,
great
I'm
to be
just-
in town. They employ our
Yeah.
people. They
No,
contribute to our tax base.
I'm just teasing with you.
Oh, no, no.
From a previous discussion that went on for between Ford and Chevy trucks, but now, I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we allow Public Works to, this is your recommendation, purchase from Century Ford F-250 at the value of $49,045. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Jason seconds. Any more discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Go buy a truck. So, all right. Okay, next is the performance bond release, Twin Arch Business Park, Section 2, Phase 2, Lot 6A, Second Amendment site. John, can you elaborate?
Yes, so this is for the M&M Welding parcel. They have met all the requirements for the stormwater management through Carroll County, which was $10,046. The landscaping has also met its term limit, and the bond release for that is available as well, which is $4,500, with a total being $14,546, not including the additional 10% contingency to offset any things that we might have to do as a town, for $1,454.60, leaving a grand total of $16,060. And we're authorizing or approving through engineering and planning that those be released back to M&M Welding, or M&M Real Estate Holdings, LLC.
Okay, all right. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. To release the bond for $16,000.
$10,046.
.60. Okay, all right. Okay, second on that?
I'll second.
Pam seconds. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 It's unanimous. All right.
So that was for a total of the 16,000.
$16,060.
Okay, I thought you said 10,000.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
I was
Okay.
the rest.
Next, we have the approval for purchase of the east-west playground equipment. Gina gave us some really nice pictures of it, and so we'll go ahead and get it moved in. Carl, did you want to handle a motion on that?
I'll motion that the council approves the purchase of the new equipment east-west, for the east-west park playground for the budgeted amount of $38,990.36.
Okay, is there a second on that? Okay, Patty seconds, and discussion?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is the playground itself or the equipment ADA compliant?
Unfortunately, the playground is not, because it does not, the drawing here is kind of deceptive. The base is mulch.
Okay.
So it's still going in the same location as the old playground. So as much as a person with disability can get up there, is going to be as much as it's going to be accessible. Even though it shows a ramp, the playground surface is mulch.
Is there a reason why we're not considering that?
Budget.
Maybe even a pathway that could be traversed by a wheelchair?
Well, we would have to find additional money to build the pathway, which
I was
wouldn't,
thinking
I
it'd be
mean,
cheaper.
yeah. I mean, but the problem is you get up there, the surface is still not compatible with the wheelchair. because it's not,
That area is not a really good place. Like, I wouldn't take anybody back there that.
It's along a path though it connects residential.
It connects residential, and aren't there hiking or walking paths back
There's
there?
a walking trail back there, but more importantly, there's a baseball field back there, and during the baseball season, that park is used
Right.
by siblings and stuff.
Well, I mean, families who are at the baseball field may have children that
Right, that's what I think
have
it was.
mobility
Yeah.
concerns. So
Issues, yeah.
Well, we don't have to make it perfect. I'm just thinking maybe you could approve this and then we could look at some pathways in to make it at least some parts of this equipment accessible to a wheelchair
yeah,
at a later date.
yeah.
I think it's a good point.
No, it's a valid point. It's just that the budget, believe me, when we discussed it at the Park and Rec meeting, we were all kind of disappointed when we saw the mulch, because the drawings kind of depicted hard surface, so we were kind of expecting it to be usable for wheelchair or ADA
And you
compatible.
would know, Carl, would do no good to put that harder surface that a wheelchair could transverse if you can't get to it around there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it.
is Brian still here?
Uh,
So sort of from a maintenance standpoint, does it make sense to sort of make the purchase up front to put the rubber flooring on the playground versus remulching and cleaning every year? I mean, what's the maintenance cost versus the initial cost?
I would love to try one. I have no experience in that. I mean, I don't know what happens if somebody goes in and vandalizes it. I don't know how hard it is.
You know?
Yeah,
So, yeah, and that would be one of our solutions.
yeah, and I'm not really sure if that was priced out in the quotes, so I can't. Yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
Okay.
So Gina, yeah, I don't want to get Gina talking, it sounds like she's got a sore throat, but it was a significant amount of money more for a hard
But
surface.
we don't have a specific number.
No, not off the top, but as Gina said, it was like almost double the budget for the playground if we wanted a thing. I mean, we could do this now, and if there's a problem, as Pat was indicating, we could do the path, seek funding or POS or public.
I just don't understand what the path looks like. Like, is it just the ramp going there? Because then you can't really do anything else once you get there with a wheelchair.
We haven't designed a path yet. I'm just saying if you could.
No, I
Yeah,
understand.
it's just, I don't believe we requested a ADA, this is just what the Cunningham Recreation drew up as a board.
I'm just saying the whole thing doesn't have to be rubber because it's double, but if you put some pathways for a wheelchair to transverse, that might be a nice compromise.
I guess
And it's
kind of
something
the
you could
point
add later.
is,
Yeah.
it's great to have a pathway so a wheelchair could get through, but what can that child in a wheelchair do if he can't get to the equipment?
No, the path would go to the equipment as well.
Inside that
Oh, what's
area.
inside the
Oh, yeah.
park? Ah, okay.
Not the
Yeah.
whole area.
I'm
just
trying to
the
grab the
path.
best of both
Right,
worlds.
I
figure
got
out
you.
whatever's accessible by somebody that's
Yeah.
handicapped, they could access
you could
that
add it.
area. Just one area, or a couple areas within inside that.
Okay.
I mean, we have seen, there's a lot of discussion. When you start talking ADA, I
Yeah.
mean, we enter a lot of discussion because, you got to be able to get to it, then you got to be able to get into it,
Yeah.
then you got to be able to use it. And of course, that's our goal everywhere is to have that. But, so this park is sitting in the middle of the grass with a bunch of cinder blocks around it. And you know how cracked the slides were and everything.
Yeah.
So we got all that stuff out of there. And I think what we're trying to do right now is just reestablish a playground for the users there at the, at the
Field.
baseball field and also in the communities of East and West and anybody who wants to go into East West Park.
It's a good point too, Larry, because I don't know that even if we get a pathway, get them over there, which I'd love to see us do, can they climb up on that sliding board? That equipment itself may not be
yeah,
ADA, so it doesn't matter that they can get to it. And as
well-
I'm looking at it, none of it really looks maybe the jungle gym.
Like I said, the goal is always ADA, but were you guys, we applied for a grant on this, right, but didn't receive it?
No.
Okay, so this is budgeted.
Budgeted currently for the fiscal year, so I believe the
Yeah.
budget was a total of 39,000.
Yeah,
We discussed this at the last Rec and Parks meeting. This was what the
Yeah.
board chose as their first choice.
and I know the Parks Board is very aware of the efforts to have ADA compliance everything, and as we should. But for purposes of tonight, I think we have a park design, and I think we have the location it needs to go. And so, you know, I think that other discussion of ADA compatibility and ways to make this more usable can occur at the Parks Board. And hopefully y'all are able to come up with good solutions, and we're able to, you know, fund them and get that done. But, you know, is there any more discussion on what we have in front of us?
Well, I just want to reiterate what you said, because what I was trying to say before, and I probably didn't say it very well, is I haven't been back there probably in a year's time, but when I was back there, and I've walked back there quite a bit, there is no big parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's gravel.
Yeah.
It's rocky. It's not flat. It's not the most conducive place to take a child with a wheelchair. So I don't you know, I think that we have to keep that in mind, that it would cost us so much money to try to get the whole park conducive to, you know, to that. And I would love for that to happen, but I just don't see us being able to do that right now, so.
So the only thing that I would say to that is some parents that go back to those ball fields don't have a choice but to bring their disabled child, whether it's compliant or not, whether it's gravel, they have to move, figure it out, kind of. So while I approve, like, I am okay with this, obviously, because we need to get the playground back, I think we should be careful in the future that whatever we put in that's new is ADA compliant.
Well, the goal, and I agree with you, the goal is always ADA compliance. That's always the goal. And, you know, if we can get this playground in there, and then the Parks Board's able to discuss improvements down the road, then, you know, we get them in the budget and we make things happen.
Yeah.
So,
It's nowhere in here that it's not mulch.
What you mean?
No, you like that it's supposed to be.
What is it?
Like just this part here doesn't.
is there more to discuss? I mean,
I'm good.
Certainly give you all the time anyone wants to discuss it. But, okay, the motion's on. It's been seconded. We discussed it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, Councilman Poirier opposes. All right. Okay, we're down to our mayor and council reports.
Woo-hoo. Okay, my formal report will be published tomorrow, so we're just gonna wing this one. On behalf of the staff and the town council, we want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. We certainly have a lot to be thankful for in this great town that we live in. In the mayor's report, we're also going to get some updates from Mount Airy Net and how you can contribute to those in need over the holidays. So look for that report out tomorrow. There's a list of events happening that I know Gina, staff, probably Manta has been working on. They'll be publishing Man's report, but they're also going to be coming out in a newsletter. I know we have exciting things like carriage rides and all kind of great things happening downtown. So look out for those. With that holiday in mind, I want to let everybody know, and this is a surprise to the staff, but we'll be closing at 2 o'clock on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and we will reopen the Monday, I think it's December 2nd. I will be hosting the Mayor's Forum, and the Historical Society doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to ask them if I can come over there on Saturday, November 23rd from 11 to 12 to encourage people to come over to our Historical Society. I believe our Christmas ornaments are going to be doing tomorrow. They're going to depict the train station. They're going to be for sale. And I hope I'm not stealing anybody's thunder. Probably beautification. So
Yeah.
Carl, you can talk more about that, but they're coming up. I'll just move right off of that. And I think that's all I have into my formal report. I want to thank the organizers of the Breast Cancer Walk for doing a great job. The weather was horrible. We had a great turnout, so I'd like to thank this community for all they did with the Breast Cancer Walk. Thank you very much. And there's no appointments this evening.
Okay, thank you.
What's that?
I was just saying, there was something happening on Sunday. I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about that at all or not.
Now, Sunday, we are gonna have an event. They opening at the
TJ
TJ Maxx. What the heck? What the heck? Yes, at 8 o'clock, TJ Maxx, and it was in my mayor's report. Actually, I put my mayor's report in my pocket and I couldn't find
I was
it.
about, I was gonna
Full,
try and text
full
you, but I was like,
disclosure,
"There's-
I couldn't find it. That's why I was running back and forth. But TJ Maxx, we're gonna have a grand opening. The mayor, council is gonna be there. I hear some people are camping out.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
TJ Maxx.
And it's gonna happen at 8 o'clock Sunday, and immediately after the ribbon cutting, the grand reopen. It's been almost exactly a year. It's been about a year and a week since the tornado took us down, and that's the last thing that I know of to come back. So right after we do the ribbon cutting, those doors open, so get in there and be ready to go, Mount Airy. Thank you, John.
Yep.
I'm done.
I think they were saying there's gonna be a lot, I'm sorry to speak out, but
No, it's fine.
they were saying also, when I went to the facility today, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But they were also saying that there's gonna be a lot of fun driving there to sort of support Christmas and stuff. I'm not sure all the different agencies will be there sort of pushing out for donations and those type of things. So I'm not sure exactly how it's all gonna come together, but
Cool.
7:30, opens at 8.
Sunday.
Great.
It's on the calendar.
Okay, Beautification, Parks and Rec, Councilmember Munder.
Okay. The meeting was held on Tuesday, October 15th. Chairwoman Tina Swanson thanked commission members Dwight Mullenix and Beverly Blanchard for their efforts on expanding several garden plots at the parks throughout the town. Anyone that drives on South Main Street next to the banner sign may have noticed that the shrubs and some other flowering plants have been planted at that sign recently. So we'd like to thank the other commission members that planted that. As the mayor was alluding to, the 125th anniversary Christmas ornament, I take it, will be in this week and will be sold here at Town Hall and the Historical Society at the museum for $20.
And Carl, that's the fourth in a series.
Yes.
Fourth in a series.
Yes.
They run out. There's limited number.
Thank you. There's a limited number for them, and so buy now, buy early, and buy often. They make great presents for the trees and decorations. The commission did routine maintenance of various garden plots around town, and they planted a plant called Hens and Chickens and bulbs at the train station, which were donated by Linda Jones. And the commission would also like to invite citizens of Mount Airy to come down to the caboose on this Saturday, November 9th at 10 o'clock to help decorate the caboose downtown railings for the upcoming holidays. Coffee and donuts will be provided. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, 11/19 at 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. The Rec and Parks report is the meeting was held on October 24th at 7 p.m. in Town Hall. This meeting was held a week later than our normal third Thursday meeting due to the scheduling conflict with the Taste of Mount Airy. There was a speaker, Mr. Jason Evans with Mount Airy Sliders, spoke before the board to correct some inaccuracies that were reported during the previous month's meeting / discussions on field allocations for his organization. The board discussed several, as we just approved, the board discussed several design options for the new equipment at East West Park. The board recommended option 1 for Cunningham Recreation. The topic of access to handicap parking spots in Watkins Park came up on a Facebook post, and we were discussing that. Basically, it was along the access road to the dog park. There's several spots, and I believe we were looking into ways of making it more well-known that people with handicap could drive back there and park, because we had cones across it, and it's not as well versed amongst the people that use it or the teams to be telling their people that, hey, move them, park back there, just come back and drop them off and make the spaces available for people that need it. So we're looking into options or talking points on how to get.
Maybe just put a chain and say.
Chain or something.
Undo the chain.
Yeah, or the cones, or move the cones.
The cones they do kind of deter.
Yeah. So we don't want to obstruct anyone that needs a parking spots back there. The construction of the new pavilion at Summit Ridge Park is progressing nicely. It should be completed shortly, if not already done so. Town staff has put out a bid for the installation and completion of the fence around the basketball court at Twin Arch Crossing Park. And while I'm mentioning that, there's been some recent vandalism over there at Twin Arch And I would just like to mention that if you see something or someone doing something, please mention it to the police and call the police, because it does cost the town money in the long run, no matter what or how much it does cost the town money, and it's taking money away for us to fix it for more important projects or other things that the money could be used for. The meetings are held, the Park and Recs meetings are held on the third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. in Town Hall. With that being said, the next meeting has been rescheduled from the Thursday, the normal November Thursday, to Thursday, December 5th at 7 p.m. due to the regular scheduled meeting is conflicting with the volunteer dinner. So that's it for the report for Parks and Recs. Was that?
Thank you, Carl. Economic Development Planning Commission, Councilmember Reed.
Yep, so the Economic Development Commission met on October 23rd. Topics of discussion were the blight ordinance and urban renewal. The Economic Development Commission obviously supports the decision to move forward with obtaining that program. We believe that it will certainly help with some of the blighted commercial properties in town to entice new businesses to come. So thank you, David, for working on that. EDC also voted to revisit the mom and pop grant. As you know, that was introduced to town council maybe 2 years ago. It went back to EDC with questions that were never answered, and it kind of went by the wayside. So we're going to start reviewing that again and seeing if we can't tweak it and bring it back to town council, answering some of those questions. We actually hope to have a draft presented at our next meeting. Some more information to come on that. Over the last probably year and a half, EDC has interviewed surrounding municipalities to gain information related to their successes and their struggles. One thing that's reoccurring related to successes are third Friday type events. So EDC is going to explore a possibility of partnering with MAMSA to bring similar events to the downtown Mount Airy. We attended one this past weekend. It was first Saturday in Frederick, and I don't think I've ever seen so many people on Frederick's Main Street. So those type of events certainly help local economies. Our next, save the date, the December Business Card Exchange, hosted by EDC as well as Greater Mount Airy Chamber of Commerce, is Thursday, December 12th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. Sort of an annual holiday event that EDC hosts, and it's a lot of fun. So if you are around, please stop by. Our next meeting has not been decided yet. There's a possibility that we actually won't meet again until maybe January because of the holiday schedule, so I'll keep you posted. Planning Commission, we met October 28th. So the Planning Commission voted to adopt rules of procedure, including the addition of ex parte communication. Planning Commission discussed it and adopted the new rules of procedure unanimously. Ordinance 2019-12 related to the APFO, as Roxanne has stated, the Planning Commission decided that a public workshop was needed so that they could better understand the APFO as well as 1923 before they made a decision related to this proposed ordinance. Ordinance 2019-13 was also discussed. A public workshop was also decided prior to making a recommendation. They want to fully understand. This ordinance actually would replace 2016-23. So Planning Commission kind of wants to go back and read 2016-23 as well as the text amendment that was done to fully understand what's being proposed and what we would adopt in its place before making a decision, which I think is very responsible. That workshop is on November 14th, 6 p.m. at Town Hall. The next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 25th, 7 p.m. Town Hall. Quick updates, Junior Task Force will meet again on November 18th, 5 p.m. at Town Hall. Their continued focus on volunteer community service, as well as their long-term goal, which they just finally came up with, engaging the youth by developing youth activities throughout the community. Translates to they are going to start advocating for a community center. So I'm excited about that.
I'm sorry, when is that meeting?
November 18th, 5 p.m. Yeah.
At the last one, we got a hayride.
I know, I missed that.
So I don't want to keep talking, but Junior Task Force, we've been trying to expose them to as much as we can, different aspects of our community, whether it's public safety, agriculture, trying to get them to choose kind of what their long-term goals or missions were. They finally, over McDonald's Happy Meals, chose youth engagement.
That's how Larry and I make all our decisions.
For them.
That's how we
So-
set the agenda, Holly.
So real quick, Turkey Trot, which benefits the Mount Airy Net, is on Thanksgiving morning, November 28th, 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. The links to Chaladon. Holiday preview, Small Business Saturday, Friday, November 30th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. downtown. Live music, horse and buggy rides. Senior Citizen Holiday Shopping Day is December 10th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. MAMSA is going to run a shuttle bus from the senior center to downtown for 3 hours to take out the parking and accessibility issues for some of our seniors. So seniors are going to be able to come to Main Street, shop. Participating merchants are offering discounts and fun little promotions within the stores. So hopefully that, I'm excited for that event. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, but we'll see.
What day is that again?
December 10th.
December 10th, thank you.
That's it.
Oh, you got? Okay, thanks.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Sanitation, Recycling, and Mount Airy Sustainable Commission, Council Member Poirier.
Thank you. Our last meeting was the Sustainable Mount Airy Commission, and much of our conversation surrounded the community garden. And that is progressing very nicely. We laid out a footprint, and we're getting the number of plots taken care of, as well as in-ground and boxed plots. So we are looking and trying to work feverishly around spring 2020 opening, so we can start breaking ground on that. And then the commission is also starting to work with area schools on education programs for recycling and composting. And we're really excited about that as well. And my next meeting will be Recycling and Sanitation, November 20th at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall.
All right, thank you. Streets and Roads Commission, Council Member Washaba.
Don't have a meeting, or excuse me, I don't have a report tonight because our meeting is tomorrow night here at 7 o'clock.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. And I know you're going to be there front and center.
Daggone it.
It's your favorite meeting.
And Water and Sewer Commission, Special Projects, that's myself. And our meeting is on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So we'll forego the report because it would be the same as it was last month, although Dick's been working hard through the month. So still got to keep him on a good health plan. So Town Administrator report. Go ahead, David.
Just that when we issue our report, you're going to see we have a lot of balls in the air, a lot of things going on that staff's working on. One of the things that happened this past week was Mr. Johnson, Mr. Stockdale, and Mr. Swanson and I met with representatives for the NPDES, which I had to look it up, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. It's controlling pollution. And it seems that Brian and Eric have it all under control, and Mr. Swanson agrees. And one of the things I think Mr. Swanson and I can help them with is there's an educational component that we have to do 4 or 5 things over the next 2 years, and I'd like to volunteer to try to take that off Brian and Eric's plate and maybe come up with something. We have such talented staff. We can probably come up with some real good things to take care of that element. Mr. Breeding and Ms. Clinton have been helping me work on some things with Carroll County, trying to figure out some permits on property in town that seems to have perpetual permits, and so we've got some things worked out there. We have a conversation going with Carroll County, trying to figure out where this is come from and where it's going, and so
Does this relate to a property that maybe is in the middle of construction?
partially
whatever?
constructed, yes.
Okay, thank
So we have more details for that, and we're just trying to, again, get a path, trying to figure out where we're going with that. And finally, I did a ride-along with Mr. Betts, with the chief's permission to see how code enforcement operates and is going, and he's a delightful person, has a great rapport with the communities out there. People seem to know him, and he's engaging them, and that worked out really well. And we looked at some things that maybe we can do better and start to be a little more proactive, and we're working on things like that. So the chief was kind enough to let me borrow Mr. Betts for an afternoon, and it was enlightening, and I think we will mutually benefit from that.
Great.
You had some good press coverage there too, David, so nice article in the paper. We're happy to have you here. Okay, we're down to town attorney report. Tom?
Since our last meeting, finalized the signs ordinance, which got passed tonight. Finalized the rules of procedure for the planning commission, which the planning commission did adopt at its last meeting. I did attend the planning commission meeting on October 29, I believe it was. And also worked on some ethics code changes Mr. Swanson asked me to assist with on behalf of the Ethics Commission. That'll probably be up for introduction, yeah, in December.
Okay. All right. And you had no press coverage, which is probably a good thing.
That's very good for an attorney, yes.
Yeah.
No press coverage.
All right. Same deal with pilots. So, code enforcement officer report, we have a copy of that. And with that, I'll move that we go into a closed meeting to consider the acquisition of real property for public purpose and matters directly related to the CSX property and not the Wriggler. And following that closed meeting, this meeting will be adjourned. Can we do a roll call? Pam? Do you agree with? Aye. Jason? Aye. I'm an aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Carl? Okay, so that's where we're at. We're going to move into a closed meeting at this time. Thank you.